Have you ever had a taste of the optimal human experience? You know, that feeling when nothing really matters. You feel extra confident, you feel like you could take on the world, and you feel like you were immersed. You are at one with the task that you are completing, whether it be a sport, a game, or just writing at your computer. Some people call this state the flow state, and that is a state of consciousness where nothing else matters except for what is right in front of you, what your attention is immersed in. So when you tap into this state, you cease to care what other people think, become one with the task you are engaged in, and know exactly what to do next, how well you are doing, and gain a deep sense of satisfaction from it. So what few people understand is that you can create a game out of any situation in life, as long as you can mold your mind to create the certain aspects that a game entails. And if that game is fun to you, then life becomes more enjoyable because you start playing rather than being played. So if you can't mold your mind to create your own reality or create your own game that you play and you have fun playing in life, then your mind will be molded, and it already has been molded to play external status games that society has created for you. And these are things like going to college, getting a job, or just taking another structured approach to life that someone else has laid out for you, but that may not be the best fit for you, and it just leads to unnecessary suffering and pain and just not enjoying your life because you're following the steps that someone else has presented to you, and that may not align with the goals that you personally have in this lifetime. Because that's just the thing. Sovereign living or autonomous living or just being independent and building your own thing, your own way of survival, is difficult. It's uncertain, right? And the mind craves order. It craves certainty. So if there is a path that is easier or more certain or more secure for someone to take, that's where the masses flock. That's where 99% of people flock. And so the purpose of this video is for awareness. I know a lot of you have similar values and goals as mine, and that is to build your own thing, be independent, and break free of the matrix if you want to frame it that way, but to just live an enjoyable life on your own terms. There's a few patterns that we can recognize. The main ones being stacking gold, choosing a profession, leveling up your character, and the progression that goes along with those things. But those are just the common ones, and 90% of the time, it just doesn't work out that way. You think that the secure path is secure, but 90% of people, or however many percent of people, just end up with way too much anxiety, way too much stress, way too much overwhelm, and they get trapped in this jail or prison of their own doing. You have a series of choices that you get to make. What your character looks like, what kind of player they are, what profession they want to specialize in, the quest path that they want to take to level up, and a series of other personal choices that allow them to play the game in an interesting way, right? It's like people choosing what sport they play when they are growing up, or people that are trying to start a business, what skill they learn or what business model they choose. They're all viable, but they take a different skill set and they lead people down a different path. It's like I always say with the one-person business model, is that your brand is your goal in life, right? So if my goal is just the good life or financial freedom or something big and broad like that, my unique path is what makes my brand unique, right? How I'm going to achieve that goal is going to be vastly different, vastly unique. My story is going to be my brand. It's going to be what separates me from everyone else, and it allows me to create my own personal monopoly or mental monopoly. So it's like if 5 people were standing at the bottom of a mountain, and life being infinite mountains, so 5 people standing at the bottom, and they reach the first peak. Well, first they look up and they all draw different paths on how they're going to reach that first peak. And then there's just infinite mountains to climb. But once you reach that peak, you can look down and you can help people navigate that path up in a better way, right? That's what business is helping people solve their problems or climb the mountain in a faster way to achieve their desired outcome, which is reaching that peak that you've reached. So the next thing, that was there, you can take infinite paths to achieve success. But the next one is that leveling up increases the complexity of the self. So in the real world, the main spiritual problem is that people never change. They identify with their beliefs, their jobs, or just another finite aspect of the external constructed world. And then once they've reached that point of just like static, not wanting to change, they don't learn anymore, they don't stack more skills, they don't level up to the point of more opportunities being available to them. So by improving your skill set, by learning and executing and taking on challenges, it allows you to take on higher level challenges. And by taking on higher level challenges, you open up room to take on a lot more or have a lot more opportunities. So the first thing we need to do is set a hierarchy of goals, but then they also have clarity on how to reach that goal with sub-goals like quests. Because if there was only the one goal of winning and you had no idea how to get there, then the game wouldn't be fun. Because as humans, we have the ability to aim with our minds into the future. We want to have a vision that we can build towards. But if we don't want to get overwhelmed by this grand vision for our future, then we have to create sub-goals in order to get there. So I would recommend that you sit down with a pen and paper to create the first iteration of your vision. Understand it's an iteration, it doesn't have to be perfect. Then create a 10-year, 1-year, and monthly goals. Again, these don't have to be perfect, just get the first iteration out and you can come back to it. Have a place for weekly direction and reflection, and then align your daily priority tasks with those. And now with these written down, this is important. And most people don't understand why, because they've never done it. But it's important because writing these things down, it's like an anchor that help create order or order consciousness or create this frame of the games. This is important because when you start playing a game, especially when you haven't read the rule book or you've never played before, is it going to be fun? No, of course not. And even if you knew the rules, it's still going to take time for you to grasp what's going on in the game. So this is why I always recommend just starting, right? Just start something. If you don't know how, you just start with what you know, and then you learn on the go and get real world experience. So learning through any medium influences our thoughts, and our thoughts influence our behavior, meaning that anything you learn or consume is going to impact either directly or indirectly how you act and move within this world and what opportunities you perceive as available to you. So winning the game of life, business, or any present moment situation you are in is dependent on how your character perceives and acts within that specific situation. So if we want to achieve or create the life of our dreams, then we have to create the character or the player that will lead to that outcome. So how do we create our character? First, you need an intrinsic hierarchy of goals. You need to understand how to frame not only your life. When you're obsessed, you stop caring what people think and play to win according to your values. Games are enjoyable, and every situation in life can be mentally molded into a game. If you want to avoid mental turmoil, your skill needs to match the challenge that any situation presents. Your perspective will determine the information available to you, and if it's not structured, you will misperceive it. Yourself, a concept, is the player. With time, you want to create the character that can win the games that it is best at.